recommended that at the time of sentencing, it would move to dismiss the remaining counts, and the case was referred for a pre-sentence report investigation, victim impact statements, and drug and alcohol psychological evaluation. We are here today for purposes of sentencing. Defendant is present with his counsel, Mr. Tim Deeb.
Mr. Deeb.
Your Honor, we are prepared to go forward at this time.
Good.
Your Honor, this was a difficult situation for Robert. The demise of his marriage started to take place at the beginning of the year, and it was a downward spiral for him. And mentally, that's been very tough for him. They have 3 boys together, and that was his life for the most part. He did not handle the way things transpired. The police were called on numerous occasions because they were arguing, and they got to the point where the police needed to be called. And then it further went to this point where they decided to separate and divorce. And given that situation, with the 3 boys in his marriage, Robert did not handle that very well. He did start to go to counseling. However, he barely scratched the surface with that. That's something he intends to do to get his mental health straight, because he was not dealing with this stress in an appropriate manner. And that's why we are here, because he reacted very poorly to the situation. I know there's a discrepancy of the facts, but he did tell the police generally what he had done, though he did not say it as specifically or
Well,
as
not
harshly
really.
as the witnesses did. But that is with most people. When they talk about their own wrongdoings, they take the edge off. But he did tell the police he went there, he did have the gun, he showed them where it was. And since then, he enrolled himself in counseling, though he still has a long road to go. His family is supporting him, and he has a place to stay with his mother. His employer is holding his job. And they've been doing that for a while. However, they're not entirely certain as to how long they'll be able to do that. But right now, he does have a job for the near future at the same place where they're going. I believe he's making $44 per hour with the availability of overtime. So he's hoping to get back on track, get his bills and everything squared away, so he's not behind on anything, to live with his mother and to get back into his counseling and his mental health treatment so that he can better himself. He is remorseful, he feels horrible about what he's done. He can't take it back, but those are some of the things that he has mentioned. He definitely misses his boys, and he's upset with himself for the fact that he didn't realize they were close by the daycare, but the fact that they were there close by that he now knows, or knows after the fact, that has bothered him and something we've talked about. But at this point, he just wants to get himself back on track and get himself where his head's on straight. We ask for community control, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Vian, what do you want to tell me before I impose sentence?
Your Honor,
You just never sit down, it's for you.
first I want to apologize to my wife. I never intended to ever put my hands on her for essentially upsetting my family, by not being the role model for my kids that I should have been. It has been a rough year for me. At the beginning of the year, I found out my wife was cheating on me. And then from there, after that, we had enrolled in marriage counseling to try to help get through it. Our marriage counselor had a few issues, so we kind of stopped going to those, but I was trying to do things to spend time with her after the kids went to bed to try to have a good marriage. I thought things were starting to go better. She acted like they were. She was telling me things like she missed me and she loved me and stuff like that. So I thought we were starting to get on a better page. And then at the end of June, I came home from work and she told me she wanted a divorce. And when she told me she wanted a divorce and I started digging, she's been talking to somebody else the whole time and I didn't know it. I thought she had stopped talking to him. And from there, I had a hard couple days and I started to get my head around it. And we had mutually talked and came up to an agreement that nobody at the house, nobody around the kids or anything like that, to try and be respectful to each other. And 2 days later is when she had her boyfriend at my house all day while I was at work and taunting me, saying that, you know, basically telling me that I have no, it doesn't matter how I feel about it, she's gonna do what she wants to. And when I went to the daycare to pick up the kids, I found out that she had him there too, which violated two things that we had just agreed on a couple days earlier. So on top of finding out that I'm getting divorced and my family's falling apart, and the last little bit of trust I had in her, she ripped that out too, and I overreacted. However, it was all under emotions and just feeling betrayed by somebody that I've loved for 7 years, fell head over heels in love with, and honestly the first person I was truly in love with. I just wish that I could get out of here and prove to everybody, the courts, everybody, that I'm not a bad person. I just want to get back to work and help my kids grow up. I continue with counseling, get through this divorce, and try to provide for my kids and show my family that I'm not this failure. I know I messed up that day. I overreacted.
Well, why don't you tell me what you did?
So on that day, I was at work, and I found out that she had him at the house. We got into an argument on the phone, and I went to the daycare to pick up the kids. I had called them because she does have a history of alcohol abuse, which she's done some work on, and I didn't know if this was out of her being drunk or whatever. I called the daycare and asked them not to let her take them because she was acting irrational that day. And then they called her.
What did she do that you concluded she was acting irrational that day?
Because before all this, 2 days prior, we just agreed, and she agreed that we wouldn't have anybody at the house, and
Okay.
she was basically making a mockery out of me on the
Okay,
phone.
You perceive what was going on that day as her mocking you.
Her mocking
So
me.
who was being irrational here?
And she,
Just ask you a question.
I guess I was.
Well, you told me that she was being irrational,
Well,
and the irrationality was somebody was over your house that you didn't want to be there.
Correct, and we.
Okay, so go ahead from there.
And so from there, I proceeded to go to the daycare, not expecting her to be there. When I got there,
Well, if
she
you
had
weren't,
him there
why
too.
did you call the daycare to tell them not to let her pick the kids up if you didn't
I was
expect?
trying to get there.
If you
sorry.
didn't expect her to be there, why would you call them then?
I was trying to get there before her, and I didn't know what kind of state she was in,
Okay,
because she had him with her,
okay,
and I didn't want my kids around him.
okay. All right, go ahead.
And so when I pulled in, I parked behind her vehicle to make sure that she couldn't leave, and I did not know he was there at that point.
Well,
And,
your fear was that she was gonna show up with him.
well, my fear was that she was gonna take the kids. She had him with her at one point, so I didn't know that he was still with her. I wanted to take the kids.
Hold on. You're telling me things that don't make sense, okay? You didn't want her to pick up the kids, but you didn't expect her to be there. You saw him with her that day, but you didn't expect him to be with her. So you blocked the car in. Why?
I blocked the car in so that I could take the boys with me,
Okay.
because I didn't know what was going on with her.
So that car was parked head end, blocked, and you came in behind it and parked?
Yes, and then
Okay.
he exited the vehicle before I could get out of the truck and started threatening me.
Threatening you how?
Started balling up his fist and like shrugging and started moving towards me like he wanted to get into a fight.
While you were still in your car?
As I was opening the door to get out,
Okay. And how close did he get to you?
probably within 10 feet.
Okay, and then what happened?
And that's when I had reached into the truck and grabbed my gun.
Okay, and then what?
And I pointed it at him to try to get him to move back.
And what did he do?
He essentially did move back and turned away from me, which is when I put the gun back in the truck, locked it, and proceeded inside to go get,
Okay,
try to
so,
get my kids.
so I'm looking at Kayla Workman's statement. So she observed an argument that you had with Jesse. She noted that Jesse did not touch or approach Robert during the argument. She did not know who either man was until she was told after the fact. She only identified them as the first man who pulled up in the black truck and the man in the red shirt that was already in the lot standing next to a car. She witnessed the man who got out of the black truck yell at the man in the red shirt. The man who got out of the truck stopped yelling, walked to his truck, went inside, came back out holding a handgun. Then he then walked towards the man in the red shirt and pointed the gun at the man in the red shirt, and she heard him say, and this is the quote, "I'm going to fucking kill you." So are you telling me that never happened?
I never said that I was gonna kill him.
Okay, what about the rest of it?
And I turned out of my truck, I never advanced towards him.
Okay. So then there's the next door unit, Maxim's, Angela Maxim, who works there. She was walking out the back door of Maxim's to go to her car. She saw a black Ford F-150 pull up into the daycare center lot. She observed a male get out of the truck and began yelling at a man in a red shirt who was already in the lot standing next to a car. She noted that the two never touched one another. During a brief pause in the yelling, she observed the man who got out of the black truck return to his vehicle and moments later come back out pointing a black handgun at a male in the red shirt. So that happened?
I pointed a gun at him.
Why would you point a gun at somebody who doesn't have
Because I
a
felt threatened.
weapon threatening you?
Because he is bigger than me and I felt threatened. I just worked 10 hours out in the sun. I was beat.
Okay. All right, so what happened when you went into the daycare center?
When, upon entering the daycare, I had seen my wife walking towards me and she gave me a look like, haha, I got you.
All right, so the look that she gave you, you interpreted to be, ha ha, I got you.
Yes.
Okay. Now, was that irrational or was that rational? So that implies that you think she set you up somehow. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. How did she set you up?
She did all this to mentally abuse me.
Okay.
She's been doing this stuff to mentally abuse me for the past few months. She made me feel like we were actually gonna be a great family, and
Okay.
then
So what happened after she gave you the ha ha look, I got you?
I had turned and pinned her up against the wall.
How did you do that?
With my hands against her. I pinned her shoulders against the wall.
You pinned her shoulders against the wall. Well, why do people in the daycare say something that isn't even close to that? Why do they say that you came in, grabbed her around the neck, and picked her up off the ground holding her against the wall?
Sir, I do not remember ever picking her up.
Okay, well, why are these people part of the plot to get you also?
I don't know why they're saying it. I don't know if it looked that way. I do not remember ever picking her up off the ground.
Okay. Okay, what else do you want to tell me about this?
After that, I had wanted to get away from the situation, that's why I went home. I truly am sorry for everything.
Where were your kids when all this was going on inside the daycare?
They were inside the daycare. I did not know they were coming down the hallway with behind them.
Okay. How many other kids were in the daycare?
I don't know.
Okay. All right, what else you want to tell me?
I'm extremely apologetic. I wish, I know everybody wishes they could take back their actions. Up until this point, I've been able to control my anger for the most part. Obviously a vehicle is gonna get me upset, but I'm not this monster that everybody's portraying.
What do you mean a vehicle is going to get you upset?
Like trying to work on a vehicle or something, bolt not working or hit my fingers or something. Typical. But aside from that, I try to help people as much as I can. I try to be a good person.
Okay,
Your Honor,
Yeah.
his mother would like to address the court on his
Okay.
behalf.
tell me your name and tell me whatever it is you want me to know.
My name's Billy Deanne. I am Robert's mother. Robert's the fifth of 6 boys. He's never been in trouble before. And I have been asked to come into their marriage because every time they had an argument, Josie would call me to come over to their house to calm things down. And at one point, she called me on one argument, and I went over there. And while I was there, I come in, I asked, what's going on? Bob wasn't there at the time, I called him Bob. Bob was not there, and she said he left in his truck. Well, he seen me coming down the road, so he turned around and come back. And at that point, he said, I wanted to just get away from it, I didn't want to argue. At that point, she comes out of the garage with a steak knife. And right in front of me, she stabs his tire all the way through with a flimsy steak knife. And she looked at me and she's like, I can't believe I really did that. He did try to de-escalate things. He tried to walk away, and that wasn't good enough. I know I'm a mother. I do not condone anything that happened that day. Nothing. I am a mother. When my boys do wrong, they do wrong. My husband and I brought them up to be honest, caring people. I've got 5 other boys that have not gotten into trouble. Bob made some very poor decisions on that day. He is the son that, when my husband was dying of cancer, my husband would only let him pick him up and move him from room to room. Bob has helped me many, many times. I've watched him with newborn babies of his, take care of them, bathe them, feed them, play with them, take them places. I have not seen him mad. God, it's been so long since I've seen him really mad. Even when they were arguing and she would call me, it was always her calling me, I would go over and he would not throw her underneath the bus. He would just say, we're arguing, it's done now. He loves his boys. He really loves his boys. He has taken care of them since they were newborn. He's been a great father. He has tried to give Josie everything she's wanted. And I don't know what else to say, but that one moment didn't define his whole life. It was wrong. I'm not gonna say it was right, because he was not raised in a family of abusers. My husband never laid a hand on me. And I'm just begging you to let me take him home, because my fiance died in January. So I'm on my own again, and Bob is living with me and helping me. And I'm 72 years old, almost 73. And he is the one that's taking care of me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Billy. Nothing further.
Ms. London?
And I don't know if any of the victims want to speak before.
Hi, I'm Julia Ball. I work at Dedicated Children Early Learning Center. I'm a teacher to Robert and Josie's children. They are in my classroom. I've known Trip since he was 6 weeks old, and I've been taking care of him. They spend a lot of time at daycare. It's their second home. A lot of my kids, they get there at 6:30 in the morning, and they leave at 5:30 at night. So sometimes I spend 55 hours a week with some of these kids, and especially Reese and Trippy. They often get picked up as late as possible when they would get picked up. And they struggle a lot. These are kids that have struggled a lot with being rough physically. When they were younger, they needed a lot of redirecting. I've helped a lot to fix the behaviors that Robert has put onto them, taught them. The oldest, Miles, is struggling a lot because of him. Your kids don't miss you. They talk about how daddy.
Hold on. Hold on a minute.
I am very.
Hold on. I want this directed toward the inducing
Yes.
panic, okay? I don't want
Okay.
you talking to him, okay?
Yes.
Go ahead.
On the day of the incident, that was one of the scariest day of my life. I work in the front of the building. I was in my classroom with 10 2-year-olds when this happened. The day of the incident, Robert called the daycare, and it was a little weird. He's never called to say, hey, I'm coming to pick up the kids early. Normally they get picked up at 5:30. He called, he said, don't let Josie take the kids. She's an alcoholic, don't let her take my kids. They're both on the pickup list, I'm not allowed to do that. So I call Josie and they say, hey, I'm being instructed not to let your kids leave with you. Are you coming to pick them up? Is everything okay? She comes, she gets there first, she picks them up, she's in a hurry, she grabs them. At this point, I don't know what's going on, but I see fear and a lot of moving fast, putting kids' shoes on, trying to get out the door. Before she can make it out the door, Kayla Workman comes in and says, there's a man outside in the parking lot with a gun, and he pulled it out in front of my kids. At that point, Robert's already trying to get in. My co-teacher is holding the door, trying to hold him out, but he has a key fob. You can't keep him out. He has his hands behind his back. He comes in. Josie has the kids. She says to me, take my kids, grab them as fast as I can. I'm holding them. They're screaming, Daddy, workman and my coworker rip him off of Josie. We are trying to push him out the door. He will not leave. I have 10 toddlers in my classroom crying, screaming. I pick up a chair and I just run at him to try to push him out of the door. And he's standing there with his hands behind his back, staring at me. And I don't know, am I going to get shot right now, or is he going to turn around and is he going to walk away? I don't know what his plan was that day and why he wanted to be there to get those kids first. But to call, to try to take the kids, to bring a gun, I don't know what he was going to do that day. But if he was irrational, he would have done anything to hurt her and hurt those kids. When he was out on bond, I couldn't sleep at night. I drove to her house to make sure she was okay. I couldn't answer the door at work. We were all scared. We had families threatening to pull their kids out of the daycare because they were afraid. We had to take down family photos in the classroom of him because his kids wouldn't stop pointing at them and pointing at the corner and saying, "Daddy did it, Daddy hurt Mommy." I've been babysitting them to help so that Josie can work. And it has been really hard to see the damage that has been done emotionally to the kids, to their home, to their safety, to their mind. I wish that this was being taken more seriously, and I feel that it's not, because the daycare has not pressed charges. But it's a really big deal to bring a gun to a daycare. And it's a really big deal to choke somebody in front of children like that. Or choke somebody at all, let alone in front of children. And I want to do whatever I can to make sure that he can never, ever come near that daycare again. Thank you.
Thank you. Splendid.
Thank you, Your Honor. One of the, I guess, a couple of things that I would like to say, excuse me, sorry, but I don't know that I can say it better than any of them already have. I know that you've received victim impact statements as well. One of the things, I guess, that first that I would indicate is that Josie's been sober for 5 years. So this whole, like, I think she's using, it was more of a ploy because he was mad because she was seeing somebody else. And I'll just say, this is not a situation where he makes it sound like as if this was just one-sided and she was cheating on him and she did everything wrong. And that's not how things went. He knows that, and I'm not going to go into more details, but he knows that that's not accurate. Here, we have a situation where he's enraged because she has a boyfriend. He makes threats. He calls 2 days prior, threatens to kill them. That day, he's threatening that he's going to kill both of them. He's going to burn the house down. And one of the things that the defendant knows is that the kids are the most important things in the victim's life. And so his choice to go to the daycare and cause problems and take the kids, that wasn't a matter of he was afraid that she was drinking that day. It was, this is his way of getting back at her and his way of saying, ha ha, look, I got you. So if it's anyone who's doing that, that would be the defendant in this matter. He was just angry. And the fact that he came in, boxed the car in, and got out with a gun at a daycare is very serious. That in and of itself is very serious. The fact that he then approached Jesse with a gun and pointed the gun at his head, one of the witnesses and Jesse both say that they heard a click. And that was scary enough to them. And then, yes, he went and put the gun back in the car, but the people inside didn't know that. And then when he came in and took Josie and grabbed her by the neck and held her off the ground in front of the kids, you could see what kind of an impression that made on the daycare, but not only just the daycare, but on Josie and on his kids. That's something that I believe makes this much more serious than what we would normally see. When you talk about the fact that he then went home afterwards and did some things with his gun, he knew that the police were called, so he hightailed his butt home to do something so that they wouldn't necessarily think that there was as big of an issue with the guns that he had. In his pre-sentence report regarding the prior offense, he talks about being upset about something that was on her phone. What he's talking about happened months and months and months prior to that, and he was trying to take her phone, and he says he ended up with a domestic violence charge. Ended up with it, it's kind of like somebody saying that they caught a charge. No, well, there was an incident that happened, and that's why, at that point in time, Josie was trying to be kind about it and have them go to counseling, and that didn't happen. So here, this is a situation where he targeted the kids. He's saying that he's going to burn down the house. He's going to kill Josie. He's going to kill Jesse. And what mom wouldn't rush as fast as she possibly could to the daycare to get her kids when those are things that are being said, and knowing what the history's been. In terms of looking at some of the other things that the defendant said in the pre-sentence report, he says he just recently started seeing a counselor. That wasn't really necessarily of his own accord. That was to avoid having an additional domestic violence charge. He says that he found out that his wife was seeing somebody else. The two of them had an agreement for a period of time to see other people, so this is not like it was a big surprise. Yes, of course he was upset about what was happening, but to snap and do this the way that he did, and the fact that he says that he doesn't remember picking her up off the ground, that kind of rage is something that should send up red flags to the rest of the community, because if you have somebody who's so enraged that he could do something like that, not even necessarily remember that it happened, that's somebody that you need to have away from the general public. As I indicated in chambers, the state is recommending that he serve a term in prison, and the reason for that, even based on the fact that he doesn't necessarily have that great of a history, is this is a very serious offense, and it affected a significant number of people. And as a result of that, putting him in prison is the most appropriate way to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again. He does have 93 days of credit for time served, so I would ask that you impose a prison term. Thank you.
What is this charge from Parma Municipal Court back in '01? What's that all about?
That was I had an apartment with an ex-girlfriend, and we had agreed to separate. When we did, I moved my belongings out, and she had a period of time to get her belongings out which there was 2 cats that were hers. And when she failed to go get the remainder of her stuff and her cats out, one had died. And so when the apartment complex cleaned it out, Parma had issued animal cruelty to both of us because the apartment was in both of our names.
I don't really care about what the agreement was between the two of you about who could see who couldn't see who, when they could see him, when they couldn't see him, that's the stuff for the second and third floor to deal with, okay? I don't really care about that, okay? The problem here is that you have become so focused, completely, 100% focused on what you perceived was being done to you and why it was being done to you and how it was being done to you, that's all you cared about, okay? And that drove your every action. Everything you did was revolved around what you perceived that she was doing to you and why she was doing it to you, okay? Whatever the problems were between the two of you, take it up in divorce court.
And I was trying to do that, Your
Well,
Honor.
you weren't trying to do that, because what you did was, you told me a little while ago that because the cameras were turned off at your house, and because you thought that he was over there at the house, that that meant she was acting irrationally, and you didn't want her to get the kids because of her irrationality. That in and of itself, on your part, is irrational. So as a result, you called the daycare, and apparently that's a rarity, but you call the daycare and say, don't let her take the kids. So you thought, obviously, that she was going there, acting irrationally with him, because she was with him, that's what you concluded, to go get the kids, and you didn't want that. Maybe because of your agreement that you may or may not have had with her, which is irrelevant to this situation. So you're the one completely acting off the rails by the first thing you do is block that car in so it can't get out. Then you are the one that confronts him. And I don't, let's take out of it what you say and what he says. Let's just enter into it what the two people who don't know either one of you say happened. Okay? What that tells me is that you got out of the car pissed off, approaching him. He probably barked back at you. Then you went back and got the gun and approached him and pointed it at him, and maybe pulled the trigger and it clicked, maybe did, I don't know, okay? Before you even get to that point, it's bad enough that you go in your car and get a gun, come back out and point it at him. That's dangerous. You don't seem to think that's dangerous because you thought you were defending yourself against him. Well, the people who know nobody say the opposite. So you're dangerous. You've become dangerous because you've been engulfed in your self-pity, and it's making you act irrationally. So you put the gun back in the car. You still got that car blocked in. You go in, and the first thing you do is focus on her. You weren't there to get the kids. You were there to get her. Backing up a little bit, you did say you were going to fucking kill him. You did say that. Whether you want to admit it or not, you said it. And then you got in, you went right for her. You didn't go right for your kids. You didn't go up to the daycare personnel and say, can I have my kids, please? I want to take them. You barged in there like a madman, went after her, grabbed her around the neck and picked her up off the floor, holding her against the wall, only being stopped by two of these women that worked there that dragged you off of her. And the other one who picked up a chair to make sure you got the hell out of there, and they had to force you out the door. And you sit here and you pretend like you can't recall that all you did was push her on the shoulders up against the wall. So you can't, you're not being honest with me. Maybe you're not being honest with yourself, I don't know. But as a result of your actions, both outside and inside, you scared the living hell out of everybody that was there. Most notably, your kids. And every other kid that was there, and everybody else who worked there. And Josie. You scared the hell out of everybody. And you're dangerous. Because, you know, you may only have this animal cruelty thing and this domestic violence that eventually was dismissed, okay? But you've spent the better part now of many months engulfed in your own mind and your own self-pity that the only woman you ever loved, as you say, has decided that she doesn't want to be with you anymore. And that's driving your every move. Every single thing you do has been driven by that. And your refusal to accept that. And that fuels your actions that led to July 10th. Which were, if you don't seem to, I don't know that you realize or want to admit how dangerous that situation was. But here we are. I've reviewed the pre-sentence report, the evaluation. I've reviewed the victim impact statements. I've listened to those that have spoken here today. I've listened to Mr. Vian. I've listened to counsel. I have considered all the provisions in 29, 2911, 29, 2912, and 29, 2913. And based on the contents of all these documents, and based on your actions, I have determined that you are not amenable to community control. I'm going to sentence you on count 1 to 17 months in prison. Count 2, 17 months in prison, and count 5, 180 days in jail. Those sentences will be concurrent to one another, and you will get credit for 93 days that you've already served. When you get out, you may be on post-release control for up to 2 years under the parole authority. If you are placed on post-release control, they'll place conditions on you. If you violate the conditions, the parole authority can return you to prison for up to 9 months for each violation, up to 1/2 of my sentence. If your violation is a new felony, you could get an additional consecutive prison sentence for the violation, the maximum of which is the greater of 12 months of the time left on post-release control. The remaining charges are dismissed. Is there anything else, Ms. Linden?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Mr. Deeb?
No, Your Honor.